The legislature erupts into chaos again as lawmakers brawl over several controversial reforms. And on the streets outside, protesters demonstrate against opposition lawmakers for a third day. We bring you live coverage from both inside and outside the legislative building. A major fire erupts at a building construction site, killing at least 9 people. Plus, women of all ages grace the stage to compete for the top spot in a traditional Chinese dress. Welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Yvonne Yang. We begin here in Taipei, where dramatic scenes are unfolding inside and outside the legislature. Lawmakers from the main opposition parties led by the Kuomintang are still trying to pass controversial amendments that could affect the balance of partisan power in the country. In the morning, we saw lots of pushing and shoving with ruling Democratic Progressive Party lawmakers trying to physically block the opposition from entering the chamber. Despite those efforts, the opposition was ultimately able to enter and pass a set of amendments, making it harder to recall sitting politicians, and another, changing the way Taiwan's top court chooses members. Those lawmakers are now discussing how money is allocated to local governments. Meanwhile, protesters and police have been facing off outside the building. We'll be live with the latest on what is turning out to be a tense protest in a moment. But first, let's go to Tiffany Wang, who is inside the legislature. Tiffany, this is all over the opposition's attempt to pass amendments to 3 major laws. Can you tell us more about these laws?
Hi, Yvonne. Well, some of the amendments discussed here today could change the way that Taiwan's top court works. Already, we saw one set of amendments passed that was supported by the one of the smaller opposition parties, the Taiwan People's Party. Now, when justices leave the court, they will have to be replaced within 2 months. There's also another set of amendments regarding the Recall Act that also passed earlier. Now, when people are trying to sign recall petitions, they're going to have to provide ID verification. Now, the meeting today is has officially been extended until midnight, and so lawmakers are still expected to discuss the third and final set of amendments on the agenda today, and that would change the way that Taiwan's government revenue is allocated. The opposition Kuomintang is calling for more funding to be allocated to local governments where they hold more seats rather than the central government, which is led by the President Taichung of the Democratic Progressive Party.
Tiffany, this is not the first time we've seen clashes like this in the legislature this year. Is it always split between the KMT and DPP?
That's right. It's really not about the nitty-gritty of these amendments, but it's about the growing partisan divides in Taiwan, which we've seen all year ever since the general elections. This is the first time in Taiwan's history where we've had a president presiding over a divided legislature, and that's played out in physical clashes, every few months here in the legislature. Right now, there's no single party with a majority in the legislature, and so we've often seen the main opposition, Kuomintang, join forces with the smaller opposition, Taiwan People's Party. But as we've seen today, that the Taiwan People's Party's support is not guaranteed. And so we are expecting to see many more clashes in the legislature in the coming days, even regarding more amendments to that Recall Act.
Thank you, Tiffany. That was our reporter Tiffany Wang at the legislature. And now we go to Reese Ayers, who is live outside. Reese, tell us what people are demanding and how the opposition Kuomintang is responding.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of protesters out in the street here demanding many different things. Yesterday, more of a march through the streets, but today, more of a stationary protest with a stage and speakers, folks handing out water and warmth packs. Protests have spread around the country with reports of activity in Taichung. This afternoon, TaiwanPlus, we spoke to some of the organizers of the protest who highlighted three main concerns, and those are a group of amendments to laws here in Taiwan, one about recall laws, one about the Constitutional Court, and one regarding how government funds are allocated. But outside of that, there are general criticisms of Kuomintang opposition legislators who are just acting undemocratically inside the legislature by blocking doors to rooms where discussions and votes about those amendments are taking place. There's also a lot of opposition here, vocal opposition to one individual, Fu Kun-chi, who is the KMT caucus whip. Accusations that he's been acting on behalf of China, with one speaker saying that his recent trips to China pose a risk to Taiwan's democracy.
每次傅昆萁从中国回来，好像着了魔或者领了命令一样，就会推动各种对台湾民主伤害性很大。
Now, there are folks here at the protest holding signs that say we need to protect Taiwan's freedom and democracy, and there are some signs with pictures of Xi Jinping or the Chinese Communist Party holding puppet strings with legislators hanging below them. So the protesters here really echoing those concerns.
目前，蓝白的政治人物很明显的，完全都是在配合中共的所有的政策，几乎是国台办讲什么，他们接着就会附和什么跟做什么，这是我们最担心的。
我们必须要交出我们的身份证，那相信别的国家并没有发生这种事，那甚至我们的投票票数要就是门槛变得更高。 对，那我们就变成说，我们选到了一个不好的人之后，我们很难把他换下来。
Now, we've reached out to several Kuomintang or KMT legislators who haven't made comment yet, but they have published public comments on their social media feeds that read that call out the Democratic Progressive Party for using violence in the legislature. They're putting into question the DPP's claims that they're a world-leading democracy. They're even comparing the events of today to the South Korean president's call to martial law, the Kuomintang calling on the DPP to stop acting like this in the legislature, and saying that they, the Kuomintang, will be the ones to protect Taiwan's democracy and to never let it return to that vicious cycle of violent domination. Here, of course, referring to Taiwan's own history with martial law. And so with rhetoric flying across party lines and the legislators still inside the building discussing, and this protest, with the organizers saying it's going to go on until midnight, it's looking to be a long and quite consequential night for Taiwanese democracy.
Thanks, Reese. Stay warm out there. That was Reese Ayers reporting live from outside Taiwan's legislature. Ko Wen-je has written a resignation letter to leave his position as the chair of the Taiwan People's Party. Ko is in custody as an investigation continues into alleged corruption during his time as Taipei mayor. A Taipei district court approved Ko's request to deliver his resignation letter to his party's secretary general after reviewed the contents. The TPP says it has not yet received the letter and what it will need to hold a meeting to decide on the next steps for the party. A fire at a construction site has left at least 9 people dead and 8 injured in the city of Taichung. The exact causes of the fire is still under investigation, but as Chris Gowen reports, it's just one of several recent building fires.
Smoke envelops the skies of central Taiwan. The source? A fire in the city of Taichung at an under-construction processing center for a major grocery chain. The fire left at least 9 people dead and 8 more injured. The first known death came when a construction worker jumped from the 3rd floor to escape the fire.
第一位患者主要是全身有一些熏黑的情况，以及双脚明显变形骨折的情形。经过急救之后，已经宣告死亡。
While only a few were initially declared dead, rescue operations carried out into the night found more bodies of people trapped inside. Investigators say the exact cause of the fire has yet to be determined, but initial findings point to sparks from welders falling down an open stairwell and igniting foam panels in the building's basement.
有员工在3楼做相关的金属切割，产生火花，然后掉到1楼的整个途径我们今天还要再去做厘清的动作。
The owner of the construction company working on the building took full responsibility.
造成社会这么多的不安，深感抱歉。那本公司也会针对受伤相关人员进行全力的抚恤跟照顾，公司绝对会负责到底。
The blaze adds to the list of major building fires in recent years, many in factories or warehouses, some resulting in dozens being killed. Taiwanese safety authorities say the construction company in this case could be fined up to $9,000 for each violation of its safety codes. But with so many building fires breaking out in the country, such fines may do little to bring comfort to victims' families or assuage fears of another disaster. John Su and Chris Gorin for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's defense minister says China's military buildup is significantly disrupting regional peace and stability. He was responding to a question about an annual report from the Pentagon about Beijing's military modernization. For more on what the Pentagon's newest China Power report means for Taiwan, our reporter Jaime Ocon spoke to Lauren Dickey. She's previously worked with the U.S. Department of Defense and is now a security analyst with the China Power Project in Washington, D.C.
Lauren, this report by the Pentagon highlights that corruption within China's military, the PLA, could hinder a goal to be a modernized fighting force by 2027. How big of a hindrance is corruption in the military?
So the annual China Military Power Report, just to start, is a must-read annual document. And so if the Department of Defense has chosen to highlight an issue such as corruption or other personnel and organizational weaknesses, you know that it's something that we should be taking seriously. I think the message there is we can't guarantee that the rank and file within the People's Liberation Army will always be following Xi's orders as the PLA is structured today, right? If there's more corruption, there's higher likelihoods of sort of breaking from order and going against the grain, doing things that aren't maybe condoned by the commander-in-chief, or in this case, by Xi Jinping himself. It's particularly notable, I think, too, that it's the high-level officials where there seem to be, or more senior officials where there seem to be issues of corruption. They are the ones that, you know, in any system really set the standard for those subordinates beneath them. And so if they are corrupt, at that higher, more senior level, you know, I think it increases the likelihood that corruption is pervasive and systemic across the PLA and could really effectively undermine the ability of the PLA as an organization, as an institution to operate when called upon to do so by Xi Jinping.
When it comes to that corruption and specifically a Taiwan operation, if that happens, how big of an obstacle is corruption going to be?
So what the report does is it situates the effects of corruption alongside Xi Jinping's military modernization goals, which are these targets to build military capacities by 2027. It's not a deadline to take action against Taiwan. I just want to be very clear about that. But if we are now at this point where there's pervasive or rampant corruption within the PLA at the leadership level and potentially in the rank and file, it says to me that the PLA's ability to take any form of military action against Taiwan is going to be conditioned heavily upon the PLA's ability to overcome these institutional shortcomings. So in other words, corruption could really impede the ability of the PLA to act in a unified way, whether it's towards Taiwan or frankly any other territorial issue that the PLA faces in the region or beyond.
That was Lauren Dickey, a security analyst with the China Power Project in Washington, D.C. Huawei employees in Paraguay have been accused of espionage against Taiwan's ambassador. Paraguayan authorities say employees of the Chinese tech giant's local branch were seen outside the ambassador's official residence taking photos and using a suspected eavesdropping device. Taiwan's foreign ministry says they are cooperating with local officials to investigate the incident. This comes just weeks after the South American country expelled a Chinese envoy for pressing its lawmakers to cut ties with Taiwan. Paraguay is one of just 12 countries that maintain official ties with Taiwan. Stay tuned to TaiwanPlus News because coming up after the break, Apple's got egg on its face after its AI models generate false news headlines.
For more stories from here in Honolulu, Hawaii, and around the world, make sure to visit us on social media.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. Apple is being urged to scrap its new AI tool after it pushed out fake news to users. But artificial intelligence has become a hot feature in the lucrative smartphone market. Will the iPhone be able to stay competitive? Joyce Sun finds out.
The popular Apple iPhone is now in hot water. Its recently launched AI assistant pushing false information to users, like this untrue BBC headline, a botched attempt by Apple's AI to summarize news articles. It falsely said the suspect in a high-profile murder case had shot himself. And it's not the first mistake. Last month, the bot mistakenly concluded Israel's prime minister had been arrested. Apple is now under pressure from groups like Reporters Without Borders to scrap its AI tool entirely, at a time when competition between leading smartphone brands has meant pushing out new AI features.
Smartphone industry has been lack of real innovation during these years. So smartphone vendors they're trying to push theirs by some new selling points.
But Apple's AI features are not available in China, the largest smartphone market in the world. Beijing has banned the company's AI bot, which is built on OpenAI's ChatGPT, so the brand has had to release a model without it. But Apple is reportedly in talks with Chinese firms ByteDance, TikTok's parent company, and Tencent to bring a local AI model to iPhones sold in China, to compete with its rival Huawei, the Chinese telecoms giant that recently launched a new flagship series with its own AI capabilities.
今天大家期待已久的史上最强大的 Mate 70来了。
But Huawei's caught in the middle of a US-China battle for tech supremacy, blacklisted by Washington on top of sweeping restrictions on Chinese access to advanced chips. A closer look into Huawei's latest phone shows their development of the technology seems to have stalled.
It gives Apple the chance, actually no real competitor in that segment. And localization could actually decide AI's performance in different markets very significantly.
Though Apple briefly fell out of China's top 5 smartphone brands earlier this year, its sales have recovered with the latest iPhone 16. Integrating Chinese AI into the iPhone raises several questions for Apple. How much personal data will Chinese AI companies have access to? And how will this affect iPhone users outside of China? But with its current bot generating false headlines, there are more immediate questions for Apple to answer, like can its AI even be trusted? Kama Xu and Joyce Sun for TaiwanPlus.
The mass rape trial that shocked France and the world has ended with 51 guilty verdicts. The longest sentence was handed to Dominic Pellico for drugging his ex-wife Giselle Pellico and allowing dozens of men to rape her repeatedly over a 10-year period. Rosie Greninger reports.
Giselle Pellico exits a French court for the final time. After all 51 men accused of raping her, including her ex-husband, were found guilty. A symbol of courage and resistance to survivors of sexual assault, The 72-year-old waived her right to anonymity during the 3-month trial to allow media coverage.
J'ai voulu, en ouvrant les portes de ce procès le 2 septembre dernier, que la société puisse se saisir des débats qui y sont tenus. Je n'ai jamais regretté cette décision. J'ai confiance, à présent, en notre capacité à saisir collectivement un avenir dans lequel chacun, femmes et hommes, puisse vivre en harmonie, dans le respect et la compréhension mutuelle.
Her 3 children, who were at her side throughout the trial, said they were disappointed by what they called the low sentences given to the perpetrators.
Quand on sait les atrocités et ce que ma mère a vécu, c'est l'évidence qu'on ne peut pas pardonner.
Giselle's former husband of more than 4 decades, Dominique Pellico, was handed the maximum sentence for rape in France, 20 years in prison. He admitted to drugging his wife and inviting dozens of strangers to rape her while she was unconscious. This went on for nearly a decade. Dominique enlisted the men in an online chat room dedicated to discussing sexual assault. Giselle was completely unaware until 2020, when Pellico was caught filming up women's skirts, and on his phone, police found 20,000 videos and photos of his motionless wife being assaulted. Giselle demanded the footage be shown in court, hoping it would help other women speak up.
Je pense enfin aux victimes non reconnues, dont les histoires demeurent souvent dans l'ombre. Je veux que vous sachiez que nous partageons le même combat.
Giselle stared down her abusers in court. The 50 other defendants were found guilty of at least 1 charge, 47 of rape. Their sentences range from 3 to 15 years. Their names have been released to the public, among them fathers, husbands, disability workers and soldiers. Many had denied the charges, saying they thought it was a consensual sex game orchestrated by the couple.
Il m'aurait dit j'ai drogué ma femme ou j'y ai donné des somnifères, je ne me serais pas déplacé, je suis pas fou. Sincèrement, je suis pas fou. Je suis marié, je veux dire,
Despite the guilty verdicts, many feel the sentence handed down is too short.
Les viols, finalement, pour les crimes, on peut prendre perpète avec sûreté de 22 ans, et un viol, non. Et pourtant, un viol, ça brise des vies. On passe sa vie à s'en remettre.
Alors là, on a appris que Dominique Pellico avait 20 ans. Nous, on s'y attendait. Comme depuis le début, on pense que c'est pas assez, mais de toute façon, on savait que c'était la peine maximale, donc voilà.
The trial triggered protest rallies around France in support of Giselle and prompted calls for tougher rape laws in the country. At present, rape is defined as involving violence, threat or coercion, and it is not expressly stated that sex requires consent.
Et si je reformule, ça voudrait dire que si nous avions dans notre droit pénal français l'obligation pour la personne qui initie un contact sexuel de s'assurer du consentement libre de toute coercition de l'autre, très clairement, les accusés n'auraient même pas pu plaider une croyance au consentement puisque Madame Pellico n'a jamais dit oui.
Green Party lawmakers have launched a review of the law to include the word consent, hoping to push through change in France off the back of this court victory that only scratches the surface of a wider problem festering in the shadows. Karma Su and Rosie Greninger for TaiwanPlus.
An international qipao beauty pageant was held in the heart of Taipei, showcasing unique Chinese dresses worn by women of all ages. Our reporter Sandy Chi reports from the contest.
They are beauty, they are grace. Classic qipaos they embrace. These women are showcasing their unique dresses and charm at the International Chinese Qipao Beauty Pageant held in Taipei. The qipao, a symbol of Chinese culture and timeless elegance, is a traditional dress that traces its origins back to the 1920s in Shanghai.
这场盛会除了借由今天的总决赛，用最高规格的标准，从台湾及各国家的选手选出能代表旗袍美学与艺术文化的冠军佳丽，站上国际舞台，绽放光芒。
Now in its 5th year, the event celebrates the cultural significance and enduring beauty of the qipao, personified by women from across Asia. 18 women, aged 30 to 70, from Taiwan, Thailand, Singapore, and Malaysia, united in a dazzling contest of beauty and tradition.
我想在这个平台展现自我，发光发热的展现自我，因为我希望可以展现我自己的穿旗袍的美态啦。像我们的华人是最重要是什么呢？就是传统旗袍。我希望是可以展现我们传统的优雅跟美。
Different from previous years, this night brings an exciting twist with the introduction of a creative qipao theme, encouraging contestants to don uniquely designed dresses. Among the participants, one stands out, 70-year-old Ling Yunyi, the oldest woman taking the stage.
各位评审、嘉宾，晚上好，是夫人子2号林云逸。
一开始很紧张，不晓得到底是怎么一回事。那个身材比例呀，然后年龄这么，一定没有机会的。所以我的孩子朋友说，哎呀，到这个年龄不妨尝试一下，所以我来了。我后来发现我穿旗袍还不赖，所以将来应该有信心继续走上这个舞台。
Contestants took home a variety of titles, including Best Costume, Best Smile, and Most Popular.
While only 3 women won the different age category crowns, it's clear that this event is not just about winning, but more about showing the grace and beauty of each contestant and their qipao. Patrick Chen and Sunny Chi in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. Be sure to follow us on social media for more of our stories. Finally, we take you to Kosovo, where this girl is painting Santa Claus on windows to raise money to help her mom. I'm Yvonne Yang. Take care, and I'll see you next time.